What up, guys? Today, I want to talk about the first law of Hermeticism because, at least in my opinion, I think it's far and away the most important law to understand of the universe. If you don't know what Hermeticism is, it's comes from ancient Egypt, ancient Chem, and probably predates that even. But it outlines the 7 laws of the universe in the Kabbalion, and there's actually an 8th law, but that's not so important right now. It's very related to Thoth and a lot of the ancient spiritual teachers and mystery schools that a lot of the biggest and most amazing spiritual teachers throughout history went through so that they could be the example of truth, of God's love here on earth, of unconditional love. And so the first law of Hermeticism is that the all is mind, the universe is mental. So what that means, what that is implying, the all is God, source, all that is. The only thing that actually exists is this one eternal infinite thing. That is the all. When it says the all is mind, that everything is mental, it doesn't imply there's a big brain out in space, right? It is that within the all, the only thing that is in existence, which has no form, it's formless, it is divine, eternal, infinite intelligence, awareness, and imagination. So basically, it is to say that everything that exists at all is being imagined by the one eternal, infinite source. So, how does that apply to us? There's another Hermetic principle that says, as above, so below, or as within, so without. If we understand that all is mind, all is mental, to really know thyself, to understand ourselves, we have to really examine the quality and state of our own minds and what we believe to be true. Nothing is actually physical. Physical in the idea that that there are solid things that are just matter, that does not exist. It's not real. That science is far outdated. In fact, quantum sciences have already disproven that. Quantum sciences has proven that everything comes from a unified field of unmanifested energy, and that there is intelligence in all of it. In fact, all form, all physical form, is energy vibrating at a certain rate. That's it. In fact, you've never even touched anything. Touch isn't real. What you feel as touch is actually electrons, the pressure of electrons exerting force against another electron that feels like touch. But you've never actually touched anything because at the subatomic level, at the atomic and subatomic level, the particles aren't actually touching. None of them are. All of them are just really close to each other. And as they get closer, the magnetism of them sort of repels them from actually touching, and that repulsion feels like touch. So nothing is actually physical. All is mental. In fact, quantum science has also proven that form does not come into form until consciousness is present to observe it. So what this means is everything exists as formless energy, as waves of energy. And as consciousness observes it, it is rendered instantaneously into form. And this process is so seamless that nobody ever notices. There's no way to notice, because part of who you are in this experience is that it is designed so perfectly. So the all is mind, all is mental, all is imagined. The all is imagining everything into existence, and you are not separate from it. In fact, the all, source, God, is playing all the parts. It is everything and everyone. So the all is mind, the universe is mental. So to understand yourself, you must know this. It is the first law of Hermeticism for a reason. It is the most important to grasp. Because from here, you can understand that the quality of your mind and what you believe to be true is ultimately manifesting your reality. If you believe that you are just a physical body and you have all these problems and you're unhealthy or you lack all these things and you're unfulfilled and all this stuff, that's all belief. It's not actually true. You're allowed to believe anything you want because the basis, the foundation of existence is unconditional love. Why? Because all that is loves itself unconditionally. It's infinitely wise and intelligent. Of course it does. And it loves unconditionally so that any experience that any being, any individual being, even though it's all source, any individual being can create and experience whatever they'd like. And if they decide that something is true for them or that they need to experience something, they want to experience something, the cooperative parts from within the universe who are cooperative to that experience will come into play. And that experience will happen. And that's actually why there's a delay when we imagine something or envision something and then it actually happening or being experienced, is because the cooperative parts have to come together. And that takes time, which of course is also an illusion because in eternity there is no time because there's no beginning and no end. There's only the eternal now. So everything's happening simultaneously. In fact, all you're doing is shifting from one frequency to another. You're shifting from one timeline or reality to another. And if you listen to someone like Bashar, he says we're actually shifting timelines seamlessly, billions of times per second. That is how seamless and how well thought out and designed existence is. It was all imagined, if you want to say before, even though it just always was. So from our linear perspective, it would be before, but from in reality, it just always was. It always was, it always is, it always will be. And if you exist, you exist. And you always have, and you always will. And you don't have to earn it. And you don't have to be a good little boy or girl. You just exist. All right? But understand that if you want to, end your suffering, if you want to be happy, if you want to enjoy things, love is the answer. So, that's why there's karma or negative karmas for being so negative, right? You get back what you put out. That's one of the only firm facts and laws of reality is that what you put out is what you get back. So if you're putting out all this negativity, all this fear, all this anger, all this shame or guilt, then what you get back, it's going to be more of the same. If you want to really enjoy your life, you can choose to give love all the time. And the more love you give, the more love you receive. But you got to give love without expectation. Why? Because expectation comes from this lack mindset. If I'm not getting back from this person in this specific situation, then why should I give love at all? It's a very negative and limiting perspective, right? Ultimately, it comes from a fear that my love's not going to be returned, that I'm going to be rejected, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy, and all of these things are just not true because you're as worthy as God is. Your worthiness is divine. Your worthiness is eternal. Your worthiness is infinite. Whatever you really want to experience, you can. If your greatest passion and joy meant being a billionaire and traveling the world, that could be you. You have no limitations except what the mind believes to be true or not true for yourself. So that's why we must examine our mental state of being, our mind's state of being, because if in our field of awareness, our field of consciousness that is on a certain level individualized to us and our soul, if it's filled with negative beliefs and thoughts and doubts and worries, all these fears, all this resentment, all this regret, all this shame, all this guilt, creating your reality is going to be focused through those lenses. So your reality will be filled with all of those things, and also the good stuff that you have in your life as well. If you have lots of love and joy and peace, but it's mixed in with all this negative stuff, that will be your reality. You will have a very mixed reality. But if you want to expand and evolve and know yourself, love is the answer. Love is always the answer. And the more that you love yourself, and the more that you consciously choose love, the more your field of energy will be filled with the frequencies, the vibrations of love. And what you are constantly putting your attention on is where your energy goes. Wherever you put your attention is where your energy goes. And so if you're constantly sending love, putting out love, and putting your attention on love, guess what comes back? And it is that simple. It really, really is that simple. We complicate everything. We make everything so complex. We have all these judgments, or constantly blaming other people, or being mad about that thing that happened in the past. And even if really shitty stuff happened in the past, even if you lost a child, or lost a parent, or lost your best friend, or lost your passion, or had a broken heart, or whatever, like, realize that the more you hold on to that, the less you're letting good stuff come in. If we really had a good understanding of ourselves, we would still feel grief and loss and all that stuff, because we're human, because we live in a place with polarity. It'd be okay. It's still okay to feel those things. We're not meant to reject the human experience in favor of the spiritual one. Like, we are all of it. But the problem is we hold on to these things and we tell ourselves stories about those things. And then instead of life being this continuous upward spiral, getting better and better and better as it's actually meant to, we keep ourselves stuck in a circle. And we keep cycling around the same shit over and over and over again. There are people who spend decades, their entire life, stuck in the same cycles. They aren't learning the lessons. They aren't understanding their choice. They don't understand that they are unconsciously choosing to stay where they are by telling themselves the same stories and believing the same stuff for their whole life. They don't understand that their wounds run deep. They go back generations. They go back to when they were a child. They don't understand that their fear of abandonment, rejection, all these things, their poor coping skills, and their inability to soothe and comfort themselves in a healthy and loving and positive way, their negative self-talk, all of it was learned. You don't come into this world with any of that. You come into this world as yourself, as your soul's core frequency. You come into this world as your higher self. And that's why children are so free and happy and loving. But as the wounds happen, which to a child without any perspective, not remembering who they were, they learn a conditioning, a program that is negative, based in fear, based in lack, based in separation. And that conditioning stays with them until they heal it. And this is true for all of us. And it's not to say, oh, all parents are bad. Like, We are generations of people wounded for thousands of years. This isn't any one person's fault at all. And it's not God's fault. It's not any of that. It is, all of this is for the expansion of consciousness. All of this is happening for us, and we are choosing all of it. Our higher selves are consciously choosing all of our experiences, and we are our higher selves. That's who we are. You are not just this human body. In fact, like R.J. Spina, for example, calls that body consciousness, thinking you're just a body, thinking you're just this little puny human. That's not it at all. And humans are not puny at all. In fact, we are very, very, very powerful creator beings who have forgotten who we are. And in fact, the only way we could even have experiences like this and learn lessons like this and all this stuff is by forgetting who we are. That's how powerful we are. When we know who we are, it's when we leave here or before we come here, if you want, again, think linearly, that is what stops us from living our potential, is not knowing ourselves, is the forgetting of who we are, and then being conditioned to think we are something that we're not, to thinking that God is something that it's not, or thinking that God doesn't exist, thinking that we're just a one-off miserable little accident, but we're not. Everything here exists with purpose. Everything exists here with intention and conscious choice. Nothing exists by accident. Nothing really is random at all. And we get to choose. But until you heal the mind of all these distortions and all these wounds and heal that inner child and learn to reparent yourself, what you bring into your reality will be very unconscious. It will be so many things that you wouldn't consciously choose, but because you subconsciously or unconsciously believe it, or believe you're not worthy of good things, or believe that your life is ruined by something that happened 20 years ago, then you're going to be miserable. You're going to experience a lot of things that you would not consciously choose. And that's why so many people have a hard time believing that they create their reality, that thoughts create their reality, that imagination creates their reality, that the way that they are is perpetuating and creating more of the same. They don't realize that taking total accountability for who they are, their state of being, their state of mind, they don't realize that that is what's holding them back. Their inability to do that, their conscious choice to not do that. Because believe me, you are consciously choosing not to accept responsibility. You are consciously choosing to blame others. You are consciously choosing to hold judgments and resentments and guilt and shame. Because you think you have to. You think you're meant to. And maybe that's where the unconscious thing is. If you've never heard it, let me be the first to tell you, you don't have to hold on to any of that. Not even one bit. That stuff all exists and happens only to learn. Learn and grow. You learn, grow, let it go. You integrate the lessons, you let go of the bullshit. You're not meant to hold on to it. You're not really meant to hold on to anything. People are so afraid of detaching, but detachment is your natural state of being. Detachment is unconditional love, because conditional love is attached. Conditional love is attached to expectations. Conditional love is attached to, you need to be this way and you need to love me this way. Otherwise, I'm going to withhold my love. I'm going to close off my heart. If I'm not receiving this or that from you, I don't want you, or I don't need you, or I'm mad with you, or I'm going to yell at you and try to control you. That is all conditional love. And that's where narcissists come from. It's where people pleasers come from equally. Both are wounded. Both are distorted in their view of reality and themselves. And I really am trying to be kind of blunt with this because it's something that needs to be said and understood. If this is triggering at all to you, good. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean it in good, because you need to feel that. You need to feel what's beneath the surface, and triggers are something that is beneath the surface. That's why it feels uncontrollable, because you're not consciously aware of it and choosing it. It's just happening to you. Or is it happening for you so that you can see it? It's a shadow. It's in your own darkness. Your darkness is the unconscious or the subconscious, which is below conscious, right? If you're conscious of something, you're aware of it. If you're unconscious to it, you're not aware of it. It doesn't mean you're asleep. It doesn't mean you're not awake. It means you're unaware of it. Conscious means aware. Unconscious means unaware. And if you are unaware of all these limiting beliefs and wounds, and you reject that they even exist, how can you ever know yourself? How can you ever heal your wounds? How can you, I mean, there are people who go to therapy for 20 years or more, and they never get better because they go to therapy and their therapist just lets them complain about the same shit week in, week out. And they take all these meds, and they're just stressed and depressed and angry, and they yell at people and they lash out at people and they blame everyone for these things, or they blame this event in the past, or, or they're just constantly afraid of the future and the unknown. And they never get better, And that's the thing too. If you live your whole life and you never learn who you are, you just keep repeating these cycles until you do. You keep repeating lifetimes until you do, So the greatest gift you can give yourself and the whole freaking world is knowing yourself, is healing. When you heal and you really know yourself and you embody your higher self, you embody unconditional love, you let go of all that you are not, you break cycles that may have been going on for generations in your family line, you help your family heal, you bring beautiful relationships and friendships into your life, you change everything. This is the work. This is what matters. Paying the bills, making money, like, sure, that stuff has its place, but it's not really that important in the scheme of eternity. It's just not. What's important is, how open is your heart? How loving are you towards yourself and others? How much are you actually living in reality? Reality is love. Reality is God's reality. Everything else is a temporary illusion. And I don't say illusion as in it's not happening, or it doesn't exist, or it's fake. I'm saying that it's not the eternal truth. It is a conscious or unconscious choice to observe and experience that negativity. And the more self-aware you become, the more you can consciously choose something better. So even though the journey to self is not a comfortable one, because facing shadows and triggers and your own darkness is not comfortable, it is what is required for you to know yourself. And there's just no getting around that. There just isn't. So the more you reject that, the more you deny that, the more you push off accountability and responsibility for your own state of being, for your own mind, for your own well-being, the more you hurt yourself, and the more you will inevitably hurt the ones you love. And so, the all is mind, the universe is mental, heal your shit. Or don't, it's your choice, it's your free will. But I can tell you, it's so worth it to heal. It's so worth it to finally take accountability for yourself, to stop being a victim. Victimhood does serve a purpose at a certain point, but then it doesn't. And if you stay a victim for your whole life, that's your choice. But I believe in you, and I love you unconditionally. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.